These are the top 10 books you should get in your hands for 2025. Do you ever waste $20 on a book? I mean, I've done it, and the reality is leaders are readers, but there's no point wasting money on books that don't deliver what you need. So in this video, I'm going to share with you the top 10 books I read in 2024. Now, just a quick note, not everything was released in 2024. I just happened to read them all in 2024, and you'll want to get them into your hands to kick off 2025. You can find links to all of the books that I'm going to talk about in the video description. And hey, if you enjoy this video, like it and be sure to subscribe to my channel. Book number 10, Possible by William Ury. He is one of the world's top negotiators, and he's got a path that will not only work on world peace, but something that will help you stabilize and harmonize the relationships that you're in. Think marriage, think leadership, think teams. It's one of the best books on negotiation I've ever read. Number 9, Adrift, America in 100 Charts by Scott Galloway. I think you'll love this book. It's kind of a coffee table type book, and it describes in 100 charts everything that's changed in your lifetime. It's going to help you do a really good job of figuring out why the world that you grew up in doesn't exist and what really the issues are moving forward. Number 8, The Narrow Path. I think this is so needed, and I love Rich Villodas developing his voice. This is really about how to live your life in a way that reflects the character and the heart and the ethics of Jesus. It's something we need more of in Christians and in Christian leadership. Great book. Number 7, Craig Grisham, Think Ahead. It's all about 7 decisions you can make today for the God-honoring life you want tomorrow. This is a fascinating book. Craig really drills down on pre-decisions and habits, and there are some of the mantras that he talks about in this book that I'm going to remember for the rest of my life. For example, when I'm trying something and it's not working out, I'm not going to say, hey, I tried, I failed. I'm going to say, I'm training, not trying. Thank you, Craig. Great book. Number 6, The Death of Expertise by Tom Nichols. This is about the campaign against established knowledge and why it matters. Now, the book's a little bit uneven, but I put it in my top 10 because even though it gets a bit repetitive and pedantic in the middle, the introduction and the conclusion alone are worth reading, and he's got a lot of valuable opinions along the way. I think there's a problem with how we disregard experts and how everybody self-proclaims themselves to be an expert in our culture, and Tom Nichols really handles that beautifully well. Definitely worth checking out. Hey, if you're looking for new and interesting books on the regular, you should check out my newsletter, On the Rise. Each week, I share a new book I'm reading or a past book that I really, really value. Plus, you'll get curated content about ministry, culture, and the future church, and other fascinating tidbits that will challenge you, grow you, and apply directly to your leadership. You can sign up completely free at ontherisenewsletter.com. Okay, here's the most controversial book in the list. This is Elon Musk by Walter Isaacson. So Isaacson is one of the great biographers of our time, and you might say, well, Elon Musk, I mean, he's become so politicized in the last year and everything. But what this does, it's a retrospective of his career, and what I appreciated about Musk is how differently he thinks and approaches leadership than anybody else. When you read some of the stories about the early days of Tesla, starting SpaceX and beyond, it's a fascinating study of leadership, and yes, he is extreme. And yes, I don't agree with everything, but it reminds me that if I am going to accomplish things nobody else has accomplished, I'm going to have to do things that nobody else has done. He's an unusual bird, but very well worth the read, and Isaacson does a great job. Number 4, Faith for the Curious by Mark Matlock. So in the culture wars, we can often forget that there are people who are genuinely interested in Christianity, and Mark does a great job not only using data, but also explaining how to reach people who are actually very reachable. And one of the reasons I think this book is so important is, according to a poll in 2024, only 1% of pastors now think their church is very effective at outreach. Meanwhile, 72% of people who don't go to church are open spiritually. Fascinating book. Number 3, John Mark Comer, Practicing the Way. I don't think anybody does a better job of explaining classic spirituality and how to become like Jesus and spiritual disciplines like John Mark Comer. He writes so simply and so clearly, and yet it's so profound. Definitely, if you haven't read it, it's a must read, not only for 2024, 2025, but for your lifetime. Number 2, Cal Newport's Slow Productivity, The Lost Art of Accomplishment Without Burnout. I love this book. Now, if you're used to Cal Newport's like Digital Minimalism or some of his other works, this is a little less practical, a little more philosophical, which is exactly why I love it so much. We live in an age where everybody's going more shallow, everyone's chasing the algorithm, and Cal makes a persuasive argument why you might want to zig when everyone else zags. That's my language, my interpretation, not his. But I think you'll find that if you're willing to do the deep work, it probably does create a superpower for you. This is an amazing book. I absolutely loved it and want to follow a lot of what he says. The top book I read in 2024, look how short it is, okay? It's like a treatise, okay? It's A Creative Minority by John Tyson and Heather Grizzle. I think it is a fascinating book. So when you think about the culture wars we're in, I haven't read a better treatment of how Christians should be behaving and influencing the culture than this. It was one of the few books, it's like 59 pages. It's crazy, okay? I wish it was longer. It was written a few years ago, but it so speaks into this moment. If you haven't read it, read it. My top pick of 2024. Because you watched to the end, I'm going to throw a bonus book in. This one was just fun. Steve Martin, Born Standing Up. I'd heard about this book for years. I'd give it an honorable mention. I read it. It was an absolute delight. And if you want to see what it takes to become an overnight success, watch the decade before everybody who knew who Steve Martin was and everything he did. I mean, he became obsessive about making his comedy better, and he was doing it in a way that nobody else was doing comedy in the 1970s. Fascinating. And obviously, you know, he's doing material and projects now that are being nominated for Emmy Awards and a lot more. Incredible, incredible life. A little bit sad at points, but like really powerful book. Definitely worth a read. Okay, that's my top 10 list, plus a bonus book. I would love to know, because now it's your turn, what is the top book you've read in the last year? Leave me a note in the comments.